Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the March 4th, 2024 Community Affairs and Planning Committee. I will be your chair this afternoon. Welcome. This meeting of the Community Affairs and Planning Committee is being held in a hybrid meeting format with virtual and in-person participation by members of the public, staff, and council. This meeting is also being live streamed and may be viewed online at ajax.ca/live. A friendly reminder to all participants to please use their microphone at all times for the benefit of those participating in council chambers and joining remotely. To those making submissions as part of a public meeting, please ensure you sign in using the sheet available at the accessible lectern to preserve rights available to you under the Planning Act or other applicable legislation. I'll now call this meeting to order. Town of Ajax Land Acknowledgement. We would like to begin this meeting by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is situated within the traditional and treaty territory of the Mississaugas. More specifically, the Mississaugas of Scugog Island First Nation, signatories of the Gunshot Treaty of 1788 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. This land is and will continue to be home to the Indigenous peoples. Let us acknowledge the mistakes and traumas of the past through authenticity and support truth and reconciliation. Let us engage and celebrate Indigenous communities by being leaders of action in acknowledging the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's recommendations towards truth and reconciliation. Let us keep these principles close as we continue towards truth and reconciliation and as we move forward with kindness and respect as a community. Next item, is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest from anyone? Okay, thank you. Councillor Tyler Moran, you wanted to speak.
Yeah, I just want to apologize for standing during the land acknowledgement. I went over and I shouldn't do that. I apologize for that.
Thank you, Councillor Tyler Moran. Okay. So we're going to keep order, and we're going to move to item number 3, the adoption of the minutes. I have a motion moved by Councillor Crawford, seconded by Councillor Dyes, that the minutes of the Community Affairs and Planning Committee meeting held on February 5th be adopted. So please vote. Are there any questions or comments? So please vote. Thank you. Did it carry? Okay, thank you. Did I not vote? I did? Okay, I saw my name. Okay, thank you very much. So let's move to the public meeting part of our agenda. We have an application, PDS 2024-05, Official Plan Amendment Application OPA 22A1, Zoning Bylaw Amendment Application Z122, by 1613935 Ontario Inc., Ravenscroft JV Inc. The land's located on the north side of Ravenscroft Road, northeast of Pollen Park, and south of the East Duffins Creek. I would like to call on Ms. Andes, to introduce the presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have Senior Planner Brad Anderson, who will be providing information on the applications before you today.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Anderson. Take it away.
Okay, thank you, and good afternoon, committee members, members of the public, and staff present. My name is Brad Anderson, Senior Planner, and I will be providing a brief presentation on planning applications that would facilitate a stacked townhouse development in Northwest Ajax. This presentation will provide an overview of the subject lands and surrounding area, review the proposed development concept, describe and evaluate the submitted applications, and conclude with recommendations for your consideration. Please note that this meeting will also serve as a statutory public meeting as required by the Planning Act. The subject lands are located north of the Hydro One transmission corridor on the north side of Ravenscroft Road, northeast of Paulin Park, and south of the East Duffins Creek. The subject lands are comprised of one irregularly shaped parcel of land which fronts onto Ravenscroft Road and is currently vacant. The lands are located in the northwestern portion of the town's urban area boundary and are surrounded by the following uses. To the north are environmental lands and features associated with the East Duffins Creek. These lands are currently owned by the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority. To the east and south is the Hydro One transmission corridor. Beyond the corridor are residential neighborhoods as well as community uses such as schools, parks, and commercial plazas. To the west is the Ajax Rod and Gun Club, as well as Paulin Park, and further west are lands along Church Street North, which have been subject to a number of residential plans of subdivision, several of which have come before committee and council in recent months. This next slide provides some additional context on the surrounding area, including a breakdown of other nearby and related development applications. As you will see on the screen, there is a cluster of development applications proposed at the southwest corner of Taunton Road West and Ravenscroft Road. These lands are under the same ownership as the subject lands and propose a variety of high-density built form over 3 phases of development, with buildings ranging in height from 7 stories to 22 stories for an overall total of 1,500 apartment units. To facilitate the development of the lands at the southwest corner of Taunton and Ravenscroft Road, water and sanitary services will need to be extended up Ravenscroft Road. The owner is also required to extend the multi-use path from its current termination point near Paulin Park up to Taunton Road. The extension of these facilities would also pass by the subject site and facilitate its development as well. The proposed development consists of 48 back-to-back stacked townhouse units. Vehicle access to the site will be from Ravenscroft Road, and pedestrian and cycling access will be provided through a number of walkway connections to the future multi-use path and existing cycle lanes in the Ravenscroft Road right-of-way. Amenity space is provided on the site in the form of sunken patios for the lower units and private rooftop terraces for the upper units. There is also a communal amenity space provided on the site that consists of a gazebo structure and outdoor bicycle parking. A total of 64 parking spaces will be provided. Parking is located at the rear of the site in the form of surface parking, and there is also structured underground parking located below the 3 southerly townhouse blocks. Through the development review process, approximately 1/4 hectare or 0.65 acres of land, which contain environmental features and associated buffers, would be conveyed to the Toronto and Region Conservation Authority for their long-term protection. The renderings on the slide above demonstrate how the proposed development will look from the Ravenscroft Road street frontage. As you can see, the buildings present a modern urban-built form along the edge of Ravenscroft Road. The buildings feature 4 functional stories with 2 floors of living space for each unit. The overall design concept consists of a walk-up configuration, with the lowest levels being partially sunken below grade. This has the effect of providing for roughly 3.5-story building height along the Ravenscroft Road streetscape. A more detailed review of the site plan, design, architectural details, and landscape plantings will take place through the future site plan application. In December of 2021, an official plan amendment and zoning bylaw amendment application were submitted to facilitate the proposed development. Additional applications, specifically a site plan application and a draft plan of condominium, would be required at a future date before the lands could ultimately be developed. The subject lands are currently designated environmental protection and low-density residential in the Town of Ajax official plan. The official plan amendment, if approved, would redesignate portions of the site to align the boundary of the environmental protection designation with the limits of the developable area on the site, as was determined through the submitted environmental impact study. If approved, the amendment would also redesignate the developable portion of the site from the low-density residential and environmental protection designations to the medium-density residential designation. Finally, the proposed amendment, if approved, would introduce a site-specific policy for the site, which would add back-to-back stacked townhouse dwellings as a permitted use at a density of 76 units per net hectare. The subject lands are currently zoned agricultural and private open space in the Town of Ajax zoning bylaw. If approved, the zoning bylaw amendment would rezone portions of the subject lands from the agricultural zone and private open space zone to the residential multiple 6 zone with a site-specific exception which would include development standards tailored to implement the proposed development. The zoning bylaw amendment would also rezone portions of the subject lands which contain significant environmental features and associated buffers to the environmental protection zone. Finally, the zoning bylaw amendment would include a holding provision which would ensure that various conditions are met prior to development. These conditions include entering into a site plan agreement with the town, conveying the environmental and buffer lands to the TRCA, confirming that adequate water and sanitary services are available, and implementing a number of technical studies. A number of technical reports and studies have been submitted in support of the application, which are noted on screen. As detailed in the staff report, these materials have been reviewed by the relevant departments and agencies, and there are no major outstanding issues or concerns at this time. The development applications were reviewed against the applicable provincial, regional, and town land use policies, and the specific policies are outlined and addressed in detail in the report. As per the report, the development proposal is consistent with the policies of the PPS and conforms with the policies of the growth plan, the regional official plan, and the Town of Ajax official plan. Staff have completed our review of the development applications and are of the opinion that the proposed development makes efficient use of underutilized lands and provides for additional housing to serve residents of various household sizes, incomes, and ages. The proposed development will facilitate growth within the designated greenfield area of the town and provides for compatible intensification that will enhance the Ravenscroft Road streetscape. Therefore, staff recommend approval of the applications as detailed in the report and summarized on the screen above. This concludes my presentations. I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anderson. So first on the question list is Regional Councillor Crawford.
Madam Chair. Thank you, Mr. Anderson, for this report. I have to say, I know the drawings are renderings and possibly they won't look like that, but if they even look close to that, those are really nice looking townhouses. With the windows and the rooftop. I have a question. My question is, in the report, page 27, it talks about the Rod and Gun Club, and there's a reference here to the use of silencers and barriers. Can you tell me what that looks like? And who would be responsible for that?
So that section of the report is actually talking about the development itself. And if there were mechanical equipment on the site that would produce an impact on itself, or in most cases there's surrounding residential uses, then you would implement barriers and silencers.
Oh, so that has nothing to do with the gun club?
No, the gun club was studied in the noise study in detail, and it was determined to meet ministry standards from a noise impact perspective.
It's been there forever, never had a complaint, so yeah. Okay, no, that was I think my only question was on that one. Because I know like you're not allowed silencers, so I was just trying to, because it was just kind of in that same area, so I thought that's what it was.
If I could clarify, silencers in this context is talking about silencing rooftop mechanical equipment, not a firearm.
Gotcha, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. Next on the speaker list is Mayor Collier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I was going to say silences are illegal and have been illegal for some time if you're talking in the firearm sense. To that, is there going to be any wording in the agreement of purchase and sale for these, and this might be a question for the developer, that there is a gun club adjacent to the property? Just so we don't get the complaints later on, people saying, oh, I didn't know.
Not as of right. The noise study and its findings wouldn't come to the conclusion that one is required based on the findings of that study. Like, it meets all the standards. That type of warning clause could be voluntarily included in an offer of purchase of sale and lease. That is something that I would maybe look to the developer to indicate if they would be agreeable to that type of.
I'll ask that question, because I know you can stand right outside the Ajax Rod and Gun Club and can't hear it. It's not a sound thing, it's more of a negative connotation thing. That we have another retail firearm sales location in South Ajax, and some people just don't like it being there just because it's a firearm associated thing. So just to make sure that people are fully aware and nobody calls their counselor complains, I'm just thinking that might be helpful. I'll ask the proponent. I want to ask, and I'm trying to find the page where you showed properties 1, 2, 3, and 4. And my question is, are they all the same owner?
Yes.
Okay. And this will be another question I'll ask the proponent when they come up, because properties 2, 3, and 4, sorry, 1, 2, and 3 have been sitting for better part of a decade waiting to be developed. I'm wondering why this now when they haven't developed the other 3 properties. I mean, I'm fine approving this, but I don't want to sit for another decade before we see a site plan application and we see some shovels in the ground.
I think it would, if you're wondering what their intentions are for timing, I think that would best be answered by the developer.
I'll save those for the development. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mayor Collier. And next on the list is Councillor Henry.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Anderson, for our lengthy conversation today with regards to this development. I will be supporting it. I feel it's a really good development. Well done. Your report, very well done. I am going to take something further, a step further than what the mayor said. Because we are next to a facility where there is shooting in a range, and it is not known to everyone, because I am the ward councillor, and because we are looking at the amount of people coming into Canada and Ontario with regards to people that are migrating from war-torn communities, I would like to further request that a warning clause in the holding provision regarding the Ajax Rod and Gun Club being in close proximity be put in that holding clause. And other than that, I really don't have a lot of requests on this. I think that you've hit everything bang on with TRCA, all the consultation. Very well done, but I would like to ask for that warning clause. Is that possible?
Committee would have to amend the draft bylaw so that when it comes forward to council, that condition is part of the holding provision.
Is there anything, Madam Clerk, that we have to do up here as far as to have that done?
I think if it is council's desire to add that as a condition, then an amendment would be necessary to add that in to the recommendation.
So can I bring that forth at this time?
Councillor Henry,
vote on?
if we could have all the rest of council speak first, and then we will come back to that, because I think that question, or similar lines to that question, was going to be posed to the applicant, so maybe we'll wait for that.
That's posed to the applicant, but it's not necessarily in the holding clause.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask everybody else to ask their questions first, and then we'll come back to any kind of amendments if necessary.
Okay.
Thank
Madam
you.
Chair, if I might, I think the best time to deal with this would be following the close of the public meeting. So let's let the members of the public provide their input and have the developer provide their input. And then at that time, if council deems it appropriate to do so, that would be the appropriate time.
Thank you.
Perfect, thank you. Thank you. Do you have any other questions, Councillor Henry? Okay, thank you. And the next speaker is Regional Councillor Dyes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a question about the retaining wall. Wondered whose responsibility is it to maintain that wall?
The retaining walls for this property will be fully on private property, and they would be the responsible of ultimately the condo board once they exist, and would own those walls and would be responsible for maintenance.
So are they inspected on a regular basis, maybe 5 years, whatever?
So I'm not an expert in this area, but I believe condo boards have like a semi-regular inspection system where they have the various elements of a condominium inspected, and that's how they come up with their long-term budgets to make sure that everything's in good condition, is maintained. I don't know that the town would inspect it on a regular basis. I think it would fall more to the private ownership of the land.
Thank you. And just one other question about the Durham Meadowway. I believe it's going through the hydro corridor. So is it going to be in close proximity to these new developments, the other three as well?
It would be, and would ultimately connect to the multi-use trail that's going to come up in front of this property and continue up to Taunton Road as well.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Anderson, for the presentation. I just had one, and I'm sorry, I know it's in the report, but if you could just talk about, I had a resident ask about the removal of trees and the protection of trees. So just if you could just go over that again, and is that something that's covered by the holding provision?
So through their environmental impact study, the consultant, in consultation with TRCA, defined the limit of the woodland that's partially on this property, but really to the north, associated with the East Duffins Creek. There are trees on the property, but they're not part of that broader woodland. They've been planted over time, maybe a mixture of natural like regrowth, but also in the report they speculated that there was human planting involved. Those are the trees that would be removed through this development, but the actual environmental feature itself, along with a buffer, will be protected over the long term.
Thank you for that. Any other questions from council? Okay, so I would like to now ask, are there any members of the public who have any questions for Mr. Anderson? Is there anyone online, clerk?
Madam Chair, we do not have anyone online to speak as part of the public meeting portion, but we do have the developers and their representatives online.
Okay, thank you very much. One more time in case there is somebody who has a question from the public. Thank you, and seeing none, the applicant is here. Do they have any comments, or maybe they can answer some of the councillors' questions? I think you have to press a button.
Oh, is there a button? Right. This one? Thank you, members of council, Mr. Mayor, and members of the public. My name is Kyle Bittman. I'm Vice President of Development with Valor Group. We're a partner on the project, and I'm just here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. And we do have someone who has questions, and it's Mayor Collier. Oh. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, I didn't catch your last name.
Bittman, B-I-T-T-M-A-N.
Thank you, Mr. Bittman. You heard my original, I mean, you're a partner on all four pieces or just this piece?
We're a partner on all four pieces.
Okay. So I'll start with what's taken so long. The other ones have been approved for, I mean, the for sale coming soon sign in the hundreds of thousands is the price that's on there. Shows how long it's been sitting.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't speak to any of the distant passed on the property. We've only been involved in the management for the last couple of years. We've got conditional site plan approval on the first phase. We got that right around the time that construction prices started going out of control, and then interest rates also were increased to a unsustainable amount for at least selling real estate. So we're poised and ready as soon as interest rates come down or the market starts to improve to start our marketing program for that phase. This phase, we would probably look to market at the same time. There's a lot of infrastructure costs that we'll be incurring when we do the water wastewater servicing up that road. And it would just help to have both phases come out at the same time. They're different products, so they wouldn't really compete with each other.
So, and respectfully, those were approved, I think, quite a bit before interest rates started to go up, the northern pieces.
The zoning definitely was. Site plan approval was, I believe, or sorry, conditional site plan approval was, I believe, towards the end of 2021.
Well, I think there's 5 or 6 submissions on that. I think that's because you substantially changed the application. So I guess where I'm going with this is I really want to see shovels in the ground. So what's your plan with this? When will you be submitting for site plan, assuming this passes the zoning and bylaw today?
For this
Sorry, the
phase,
official plan and zoning today.
yeah, for this phase, as soon as possible, we'd be looking to start preparation of that application as soon as this is approved.
Okay, well, it looks like all the studies are done.
Yeah.
So it should be a fairly simple process at this time. There's an existing business just to the west. It's been there 50-plus years. Like I said, I don't want any surprises. Once the developer, with all due respect, comes and builds and sells and leaves, we're the ones that are going to get the calls and the questions. So what are your thoughts on putting a disclosure in any agreement of purchase and sale that the property is adjacent to an existing gun club and shooting range?
Yes, we discussed that with staff earlier, and we can agree to that.
So I have your commitment that that will be put in the agreement of purchase and sale. I'm wondering if that is something that's registered on title for future purchasers. I don't know, do you want to speak to that, or should I ask staff that?
We'd have to see with our legal team, but I'm sure Steph can answer.
Okay, what I'm trying to avoid is having a holding provision put on that's going to limit development of the site moving forward. And I think just having full disclosure would satisfy, but we need to make sure that it is, and I don't know whether we do an amendment to the recommendations. I'm looking to staff for direction to make sure that this condition is put in.
So through Madam Chair, if you wish to include as a condition in the hold within the zoning bylaw that there is, as part of the purchase and sales for these townhouses, that there is a clause within that agreement that stipulates that the Rod and Gun Club is there within proximity, then you can do that as part of the, if you are directing us, we can put that in as a condition in the hold. We will update the zoning bylaw amendment before it goes to council for its approval.
Okay. Those are my questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Collier. The next speaker is Councillor Henry.
Thank you. So, as I said earlier, I would ask for a holding clause, and I would like clarification with the planning department, because my concern is that we have had property sitting there for so long that has been undeveloped, and no offense to the current developer before us, I do believe you intend to make good on getting shovels in the ground ASAP. However, if that is not done, what does that look like if you sell the property? And I know the mayor touched a bit on this. Is there anything that states that if this developer agrees to it and the next developer doesn't, that we have to follow through with it without a holding clause?
Through Madam Chair to Councillor Henry, for maybe a point of clarification, the clause would also be within the site plan agreement for that site, and that is registered on title. So it carries with the property.
It does carry with the property.
The clause would be in the site plan agreement that as part of their purchase and sale agreements, they would need to include that warning clause.
So then I would like to bring that amendment forward.
Sorry, I would like clarification on the difference between what the mayor has asked for and what Councillor Henry has asked for, and are they both required? Would Deputy CAO Cooper like to weigh in?
Thank you. If I could just add my thoughts. I've been in this chambers a number of times where similar requests have come up that the builder includes some sort of disclosure in agreements of purchase and sale, very similar to this one. And typically, it's agreed upon at the meeting and it's just dealt with through the site plan process. So in my view, it seems to me to be a little bit overkill to actually amend the ZBA to require this as a condition. Of course, as Ms. Andis has indicated, that's something council could do if they feel that strongly about it, but it strikes me that this could be dealt with in an easier way through the site plan process.
So through the chair to Deputy CAO Cooper, what happens if this developer sells the property and this has been dealt with in the different way that you suggested and not in the holding clause? Then the next developer has the right to bring forth a site plan application and not have that divulged to the people buying the units, is that correct?
Ms. Andis, maybe you could clarify just the sequencing of these things, but I mean, if the site plan agreement contains this requirement that this clause be included in the agreements of purchase and sale, and that's registered on title, seems to me that it will be so, unless I'm missing something.
Okay, thank you. Maybe I'll speak to this. So when proposals like this come in, they go through stages of approvals. If you apply a condition to the holding, your zoning is now conditioned on satisfying that condition. What the second option would be to just deal with it through the site plan application, which your holding will be speaking to dealing with it through the site plan application. So you're really just extra protecting that it would for sure get done, because in order to lift the holding and put the zoning fully in place, we would have to be satisfied in the planning department that the correct provisions have been structured in a site plan agreement that the applicant has executed or is in the process of executing with us.
And just to clarify, this is, you're referring to this particular applicant, this particular site plan. If if this developer sold this land and a different site plan came forth with regards to it, or a new developer, that does not mean that it would be in the provision, correct?
If it's in the holding provision, it runs with the land and it would
Yes.
apply to any future owner.
And that's why I'm asking that it be in the holding provision. Are there anything else in holding provisions on this land right now with this site application?
Yeah, like roughly half a dozen.
So there is a half a dozen holding provisions currently,
Well,
So-
they would be implemented through this bylaw.
correct?
Yeah.
So adding one more, and this is an important one, is really neither here nor there at this point. Would you agree?
As I said earlier, I'm not opposed to doing it. As Nicole just mentioned, a lot of the times we would just make a note and be sure to deal with it through the site plan. So I think from the staff perspective, we can deal with it either way.
Thank you for that. I would like to move forward with requesting it in the holding provision. If it fails, it fails, but I would like to do my due diligence on this.
So, Mr. McWilliam, if we should put the amendment forward now?
I'd also like to ask for a recorded vote on this, if I may. Yeah, but now it really recorded.
So let's just wait. Are you putting something up on the screen? Yeah, I know. Sure, thank you. And in the meantime, I'll ask if there is a seconder for this. Okay, I see that there is no seconder. So the amendment, the motion to amend is, it fails. So I can ask the clerk to disregard working on the amendment. Thank you. Do you have any further questions, Councillor Henry? No. Okay, and I see that there are no more speakers on the list. Thank you very much, Mr. Pittman.
Thank you.
Pittman. So let's look at what's on the floor. We have the motion to approve 4.1 PDS 2024-05, the official plan amendment application, OPA 22A1, zoning bylaw amendment application Z122, 1613935, Ontario Inc., Ravenscroft JV Inc., and the lands located on the north side of Ravenscroft Road, northeast of Pollen Park, and south of the Duffins Creek for all three items of the motion. So are there any questions, or we'll just go ahead and vote?
Yes, members have not voted, so
Did I push the button? Or maybe you could push the button.
I'll start the vote over.
Let's do that again.
The vote is now open.
The vote is now open. Job's harder than I thought.
And that carries, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much. That motion carries. There are no other items on the agenda, no presentations or reports. So we will move to the adjournment. We have moved by Councillor Tyler Moran, seconded by Councillor Crawford, that the March 4th, 2024 meeting of the Community Affairs and Planning Committee be adjourned. Please go ahead and vote. Getting there. And that carries. Thank you, everybody.